Welcome to Cinema Sitdown. I'm your host, Kayla, and today we watched the movie Flow. Who am I with? We'll get right into that after the intro. Welcome back. Now, who am I joined with before we start talking about this movie?
Madeline Otero.
Megan Weaver.
Jordan Burke.
All right, perfect. So, I was going into this expecting that none of us haven't seen this movie before, considering it only came out like a month ago. But then Megan surprised me, like saying that you've seen it before.
No, I saw it. It came out on Max like not long after like the Oscars, and so that's where I watched it when it was streaming.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask the other two real quick. I know we'll get to you eventually about your thoughts on like since it's your first time, and technically it's my first time seeing it too. I'm gonna call it 1.5, but we'll get into that. So what's your guys' thoughts? Original thoughts?
I got a little confused at some parts, but I really liked it. I did. I think I got confused by like the flow of it. And I was like, and I feel like I would blink, and then all of a sudden they're off the boat. Like, dog, what are you doing off the boat? You know? Mm-hmm. But I also liked it. I liked the capybara. That's my favorite part.
Jordan?
I didn't think I'd like it at first, especially when I heard that there is no dialogue. It's all just kind of shown through action. Mm-hmm. But I was very intrigued throughout the whole thing. I found myself kind of like jaw dropped at points, like gripping onto my seat, very anxious what was going to happen.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Megan, we'll get into your thoughts of someone who has seen the movie.
No, I like this movie. I think I am impressed by the storytelling, being able to like tell this like full story in like an hour and like 20 minutes with no dialogue is like really impressive, and like changing the environment and like keeping like there are parts where I'm like, oh no, what's gonna happen, or oh, I need this to not happen. And so there were like moments of tension, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah. No, I think that's kind of what drew me to this movie. I mean, already what drew me in is the animation style, you know. Mm-hmm. But what really is like, when I learned more about it, I was like, oh, I've got to show this to the gang as my choice, because just what I heard, there's no dialogue, which we'll get into that, but like the fact that I can tell this story, the fact that it like looks so fun, like there's so much world building and not a single word is spoken, the fact that it can make you feel these things, that was my favorite part, I think, in terms of like how it's made, I guess. So speaking of no dialogue, what do you like, how do you think that like helped or hurt to tell the story?
I feel like I was making up my own dialogue in my head.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was making them talk to each other.
Can I get an example?
Like, especially the capybara, he was always like, dude, what? You know, I don't know how else to explain it other than that.
Yeah, I do think that no dialogue kind of works, because it makes it a very unique movie, or else it'd just be like another adventure movie with like a variety of animals, and I feel like we see that all the time.
Yeah. But this one had a capybara.
And I think the no dialogue also makes it feel more grounded in reality. There are some like fantastical moments, and I'm sure we'll talk about them, but like it does feel more realistic not having the animals being able to speak to each other and just doing animal noises at each other.
Yeah.
I think it really grabs your attention more, because you don't really, I feel like sometimes with me, with dialogue, I can kind of just like tune it out.
And you still kind of get the message.
Yeah, like I'm getting a gist of what they're saying, but I feel like with this, you really have to pay attention. There were a couple times where I would like find myself just kind of zoning out a little bit, and then I'd come back and I'm like, I don't know what happened, I'm lost, because you missed that one little action that they showed. So I really think it helped push the story, and I think it was actually a really, really good decision.
Yeah. I think that's definitely something I liked, like how expressive they all were. Like they didn't need to speak. They didn't need to be like your typical happy fun kids movie speaking animals to show you what was going on in their heads around them and how they felt about it. And they're not like animated in a way that's also like super, well, no, they're animated very expressively, but like you know what I mean? How like on kids' cartoons, it's like the big eyes and like
Exaggerated.
human
It's
teeth.
very
And they're,
subtle.
Yeah.
Exactly. They
It's very
look
subtle.
like normal animals, but
They
they're
do.
so expressive at the same time, and it's just that combination, the sound design. I wish we had someone who was like really into audio with us right now, because we could get into that.
No, the soundtrack and just like music is very well done. Like really, it tells a story for the movie. Like you could know when like something's like tense because the music gets tense. You know when like it's about to build because the music's building. And I think that because there isn't dialogue, the music is like the storyteller and not, you don't have to rely on like having to like watch the animals and like trying to like guess what they're feeling. You can kind of guess what they're feeling based on like how the music is sounding.
Yeah, it kind of picks up the slack. I feel like.
I feel like it's also very, like we said with their expressions, the music is very subtle. It's not, even in these like very dramatic, very intense moments, the music does get intense, but it's not overly intense. It doesn't feel like you have this giant orchestra behind it.
Yeah, I don't.
It's just, it just like pushes it just a little bit more.
I don't. You meant that it's not intense. Did any of you remember hearing drums at all? Now that I'm thinking about it.
I was thinking about that. I
Yeah.
didn't hear any
No.
drums.
Like
Like,
that's like stringed instruments.
Yeah,
I
like
guess.
strings and yeah.
I don't know instruments. I don't know music.
There could have been drums.
But I mean, like,
there
I feel
could've
like
not been
any sort of like
drums.
intense
Yeah.
music you think of when there's drums, and I don't.
And there
It was
wasn't.
I don't
very
know.
slow and subtle. It flowed.
It
Ah,
flowed.
it flowed. Oh my god.
All right. Okay. So I want to drop something, and I want to know your guys' thoughts on this. What I think is really funny. This, by many sense of the word, is an indie film. You know, it's made in a country, Latvia, that's not really known for its movie production. It's animated entirely in Blender, which, if you didn't know what that is, it's a free 3D modeling software. Like, it's freeware. It's not like the highest tech stuff, and it's a whole feature-length film animated in that. And it won an Oscar, and it's by many definitions an indie film, which I think is really impressive. You guys got anything?
I think we should step up our game.
Us or like
Just in general.
I liked the animation style. It did read kind of video game-esque, like
Yeah, I
video
remember
game
Madeline
cutscene.
saying that.
You said something about video games. It did read like video game cutscenes.
Which I think is in part of Blender again. But
yeah.
like,
But like I feel like nowadays we're so like trying to like push like animation that's like so uber realistic. Like you're like, this looks
They're
like
not even
real
realistic,
life.
yeah.
And I like that it's a little like, you know, it's animation and like it's not like the perfect 3D render.
yeah.
Because it makes it, I don't know, it gives it that like more animated feel. Because I
Yeah.
think we focus so much on trying to make the best, most realistic animation instead of just focusing on animation.
Yeah.
I feel like it gave very like 2000s in a good way.
Yeah.
It reminded me, especially the beginning, like the dogs are running, and I don't know. I was like, oh my god, it's Over the Hedge.
Oh.
Really?
Over the hedge.
I thought
Yeah.
that too.
Specifically, Over the Hedge, the video game.
Oh, no.
I
The video game?
didn't know Over the Hedge had a video game.
It's pretty
Everything
good.
from that era had like a direct to Wii
You're right,
video
you're right.
game.
But I loved it.
Yeah.
I also love Over the Hedge.
You said it was done off of a free.
Yeah.
That's
Like
so
it's
crazy.
freeware, like just like Audacity or DaVinci, like for video editing.
That to me, like for me, that really helps remind me that we don't need the most expensive gear. We don't need the most crazy equipment. You need your brain and
Yeah.
your creativity. And I feel like the
Yeah.
people that worked on this really showed that.
They had big brains.
They had big
and they
brains.
used them.
And good animating skills.
Can we talk about like, even if like we're talking about like there's just a couple things we noticed about the animation, the water though.
The water
That
looks
was
so
that
pretty.
was I think
Yeah.
that was probably what they put the most effort into.
There was so much water.
But like
Yeah.
it looked so good.
It looked good.
Did.
Looked so
like
good.
the slow rising and like the big waves. No, it looked very pretty.
And like I especially go ahead.
And I was gonna say, I get freaked out by like big ocean things, and every time they like pan the camera down in the water, I'm like, don't look down.
Yes.
I can't do it.
Exposure therapy.
Just
I
watch
liked
this movie.
the whale.
It was I think it's really cool looking. Like obviously it's there to
He's
freak
like
you out.
a whale, but
freaky.
he's not a whale.
I was
He's a
freaked
whale,
out.
but not a whale.
I don't know what's up with that, but I like that.
Yeah.
He's like a dinosaur whale.
Which I think it's so interesting. It's there to freak you out, But it doesn't. Well, yeah. Didn't you hear?
Yeah,
Like every time it
out.
showed up, it had the dramatic music swell and just cresting over the waves.
Like I just went, oh my god, it's a whale!
I went, oh no!
Look at him go! He's just a friendly little guy.
It didn't do anything sinister. It's just there to freak you out for a bit, and then that heartfelt moment at the end, kinda.
And watching it back a second time, I realized how helpful the whale was. Like, it saved the cat.
You didn't get that?
I think I was just too freaked out by it the first time. I don't like big things in the big, open, scary ocean, so I was just, like, freaked out the whole time. But, like, he saved the cat twice?
Like 3 times.
Yeah, and, like, every time he was, like, following them almost, I think.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it was, like, kind of like a heartfelt, like, moment.
Yeah, because, like, he's beached. He can't do anything.
I still don't understand how the whale survived.
I think it's just something you hold in your heart, honestly. I actually have no answer as to how it got out of the middle of the woods. But, like, I think that moment at the end with the cat just, like, touching, I think that was, like, a thank you. And I think that's really sweet.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of, like, questions in this movie, like, what, like, world is this set in? Like, what era is this set in? Like, what happened to this? What happened to that? Like, what happens here? And I think it purposely doesn't answer those questions.
And I think that's okay.
And I think it, like, leads a lot to like, figure out for yourself, or just, like, take it, like, as it is. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And, I mean, by all sense of the word, I feel like this movie focuses on a very small part of what's happening in that world. It's just, here's a group of animals, they're on a boat, doesn't talk about biblical floods. It doesn't talk about the weird ascension that we'll get to. It doesn't talk about, like, anything magical or anything recurring. It's just the giant prehistoric looking whale, because every other animal was normal. But we get cool prehistoric whale. It's just,
I mean, that bird was kind of freaky looking.
but it's a real bird.
But those birds really
It's a real type of bird.
Okay, also, did they travel in one big circle?
I think so.
I don't know.
Either it takes place in a very small area, and because the animals are so small, it makes it seem like it was like a big area.
You could see the spires the whole time.
Yeah.
So maybe it's
Maybe
like
they
maybe
didn't
they would
actually
like a
travel that
radius
far.
around, and we really don't know because the cat slept at the end for a little while and then just woke up and was like, oh, land.
I want to know who made the giant cat monument.
Yeah.
Like, why is it so
Island.
big?
Dude, I saw that sweeping shot. I knew I just had to use it
that's
because,
such a
like,
good one. And
look at it.
The way the movie builds on the flood, because it starts off, like, slow, like, oh, it's coming up to the house, and then you see the big cat, and you're like, the water can't reach that high, that's huge.
And then
it reaches that high, and you're like, oh my god, and then it keeps going. It, like, really, like...
It can't get higher than that.
And then
it's over the mountain.
Literally. So
it's like the kitty.
Yeah.
Like, it went to its own self-refuge, and it's like, ugh.
I know, and you just feel so bad for the cat the
Yeah.
whole time. And the animal, the lemur.
I'm gonna break your heart a little bit. Every single one of the animal noises is from a real animal. So those are real cat meows.
Aww.
That every time it's doing the sad little meow. And for every other animal, except for the capybara, that's from a baby camel. Yeah.
What do capybaras even sound like?
You see, I don't know.
Like, because he was like, "Rawr."
Yeah.
So, like,
I just know that they didn't like the actual capybara sound, so they put a
Maybe
camel.
they just sounded, like, weird.
Is that why he didn't talk so much? He just gave very judgmental stares.
You're just like, rah, and that's
Yeah.
it. Right? Let's talk about the bird.
Talk about the bird.
We gotta talk about the bird. Why did bro ascended? That's all I can say, really.
I don't know. I took it as sort of like I did take it as ascending, but I took it as more as like almost like a sacrifice, because like as soon as like the bird ascended, then the flood receded, and it was kind of like, I'm like doing this for you. And we saw throughout the movie that the bird like did things for the cat, like gave it the fish, like tried to protect it from the other birds. And
They're friends.
yeah, they're friends, and I think the bird was like doing it for, I don't know. It's like a thing where it's like very up to interpretation, and it could be really happened, could have not have really happened.
Yeah.
I think it just
Because
depends
I could
on...
be overthinking it. But if it was a sacrifice, and then at the end, the whale's back in the water, what happened to the sacrifice? And like before, there's no humans, but there's houses, so did all the humans die because there was a flood before?
Yeah.
But they act like these animals have never seen a flood before. Because they
Yeah.
were all like, whoa, when that flood came. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just took it as he died, and I didn't really understand why.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
like to think he died. Like, first of all, that's a beautiful scene in general.
He
Like,
floated
I think
up
that
when
was
he
my
couldn't even
favorite
fly.
part. Exactly.
And
like,
did the cat almost die? Because he started flying too.
I think there
and
was,
then
like,
it
this,
was
like-
like, never
It's
mind.
like this like anti-gravity
think-
vortex.
Yeah, I think it's like more of like a vortex thing, and the cat was like, "What the heck is going on?" The bird's like, "I'm gonna fly."
Yeah, it's my turn. It's my time.
Yeah, which the bird got to fly again with a broken wing. I thought that was like so sweet, and it's just my favorite scene in the movie. I think. Yeah. Your thoughts on the bird?
I thought the bird died because I didn't feel like if it was like a sacrifice, I didn't feel like the bird sacrificing and then the water going down were extremely relevant to each other at first. And then I thought about it. Well, that does make sense because we are introduced to the bird helping the cat. Originally, he like picks him up out of the water. He like saves him. He does sacrifice like a wing part of his body for him. So I guess it does make sense that it is a sacrifice. I just wish those two moments were
A little more
they
connected.
put a little more into it.
I'd almost argue that like when the water was receding, it didn't. And correct me if you guys didn't see this either. It didn't look like the water was receding. It looked like the land was rising.
Yeah.
Like, and it could just be the way it was animated, and that's that. But I could also be
because
seeing
they
a
had-
meaning behind
Well, they
that.
also had the sounds like when the trees they were going like, and
Exactly.
that, like,
And the land was like
you know?
cracking, and I was like, this seems more magical than just the water receding.
I'll say I think it was just the water like going down super fast, and so it made it look like the land was coming up really fast.
which
But I did like how
I
it
think
looked
that too,
like
but
that.
like the way it looked is like that's freaking cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Alright. So there was a couple recurring themes that I don't fully get, but I want to ask if you guys noticed anything in particular in terms of like, there's a couple things that kept appearing. The whale kept appearing. The cat always just kept looking at its reflection, I noticed. I bet I think I know what that one's about, but I'll get to that. And then like that little glass thing that kept floating around that was wrapped in the net, if you guys know what I'm talking about, that just kept showing up.
the orb.
The orb. And we saw that there was a bunch, it started out like there was a bunch of those in that house, the little orbs. But like, why would it have a reason to go with them? You know, there's got to be like some sort of symbolism there that I'm not getting. But I don't know.
I think you mentioned the cat looking in its reflection. Like the lemur also likes to look in the reflection in his like his mirror that he has.
Yeah.
It almost like prevents him from going and helping the people at the end of the movie, the animals that are stuck on the boat, and he kind of has to like look in the mirror, his like trinket, his like prized thing, and has to like give it up to go save the people on the boat and go with the cat. And we see the cat at the beginning looking into the water, and he's by himself. And then at the end, they're all looking into the water because they're friends.
They're a family. I know,
He's
that's
no longer alone. Like, where were all the other kitties? Where did they go? Especially on the island of the cats. There were all these cat monuments, but there was only one cat.
Yeah. I just want to take that cat and just like, but that's also because I'm just a cat lover. I just want to hold it close to me.
Just a little guy.
But yeah, no, I totally agree. It's like, because it was always like a solitary thing. Every time it looked in the reflection, the cat was just looking at the reflection. And one thing I also noticed is that it was always like rippling water. But as soon as, and you can see it on that one, is that like all of them looked in the water together, still.
Yeah. I really like that ending of them all gathered together, and it felt like, even though like a lot of bad things had happened and you're not sure about all their futures, you can be like, but they've made it. They made it together, and they're nicer to each other, and they're more attuned with one another than when they started.
Yeah.
I wish, because I liked that too, but all I could keep thinking about is they're 5 feet away from the whale.
Yeah, me too. Me too. The
They're
whale's
like,
dying behind
they're gonna
them.
have a sweet moment and be like, oh, we're friends. Screw that whale,
Yeah,
man.
the whale's like taking its final breaths behind them. They're like, the water's
Yeah,
so,
so
nice. No, I thought that too.
Yeah. But the whale lived.
Yes.
And we got to see the beautiful sunset, which, by the way, the sun, I know we already talked about how the water looked, but the sun against the water, too.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
No,
I think it's a gorgeous movie.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
it looks
gorgeous.
So nice.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a photo.
Yeah. Absolutely gorgeous movie. Yeah, let's see. I don't know. You guys have a favorite animal? Which one of your ones was a favorite?
I think I relate it the most to the lemur, and I think
You're
we
just
all
proving
know
Madeline
that.
right.
Just cause I too have a lot of trinkets, And I too like to put them in a nice order and don't like when other people touch my trinkets and my little things. And so yeah, and I felt so sad when they kept ruining his little box. They kept knocking it over, throwing stuff away. Like, that's his things. He collected them. You don't get to break them or grab them or bite them. No. They were so mean to the lemur the whole movie.
See, mine was the capybara, because I too say "Arr," and he slept a lot, and I like that too. Jordan?
Mine was also the capybara. He
Really?
just seemed very. In my head, like when we were like, oh, we make their own dialogue, he was always sarcastic, and always just seemed like,
Okay.
okay, I liked him.
Cat.
The cat.
I like
was
the cat.
good, yeah.
All right, let's get final ratings real quick. Out of 10, what are you guys' thoughts and ratings of the movie? Anyone can start, I don't care.
Okay, sure. I don't know. Maybe like an 8 out of 10. I think it was good. I think the animation looks beautiful. I don't know. It was just like a story. I think there was a lot to it, but like I don't know what it is. So like yeah, 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I give it like a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. I liked it, but I just don't know if I would watch it again. You know, like it feels like a one-time movie.
Yeah, we get those kind of movies all the time.
I would also get a 7. I thought it was really good, but I also don't know if I would watch it again. I would recommend it. I would definitely recommend it, but I don't know if I would want to just sit down and watch it again.
That's fair.
That's fair.
I'm going to agree with your 8.
Yeah.
Maybe an 8.5, but we'll see how I feel like in 5 minutes. I don't know. Because like I just think it's absolutely beautiful. It's a movie that's not afraid to take its time. There's no urgency in it. It's just there to tell you stories. You're like, this is what's happening, and that's that. You know, and I think that's like, it's just a beautiful movie. There's no agency. There's nothing pulling me in except how it's making me feel, and that's why I think it deserves. Actually, I am gonna bump it up to an 8.5. It's an 8.5. Okay. So that's our thoughts on the movie Flow. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Cinema Sit Down. Bye.
Bye.